Hello, welcome to Partners in Crime, first episode of 2021.
How exciting, here we are.
How was your Christmas, Bob?
It was great, thanks. I had an absolutely lovely Christmas. I mean, I like everyone else's in the country and probably everyone else's in the world. Much quieter, socially, just sort of domestic, but it was lovely. It was like an old-fashioned Christmas, actually. Sitting at home watching the television, everything except for Morecambe and Wise. But you could even get those on BBC Two, which was very nice. I just missed them this year. Anyway, had a lovely time and a very pleasant New Year, and just sort of even now, a week and a bit after into 2021, just sort of trying to get going again. It's very hard under these conditions to a sense of lethargy, I think, brought about by, I think, the conditions in which we're all living. And but this helps. This is absolutely terrific.
And your long COVID probably doesn't help either.
My long COVID, yes. I mean, I suppose that adds to a little bit of fatigue, but it's nice that I've got a. Well, it's not nice. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't seem to affect me, and I don't even know if it is long COVID. It's just that it could just be old age.
I was going to say it's just age.
Yeah, it could just be age, but it's nothing that a good brisk walk wouldn't actually shake off. So that's what I'm going to be doing this afternoon after speaking with you. But anyway, I hope everyone else listening, all our usual listeners, God bless you, and any new ones that are tuning in this week, Happy New Year from Partners in Crime to all of you. And I'm sure we all agree it's quite good to say goodbye to the last year.
It is, yes, it is. I had a quiet Christmas. We were going to have my parents over. I think we spoke about it when we did our last episode, and then the Prime Minister decided the rules were going to be changed.
Yes, I heard him say Adam Croft's parents stay at home.
Yeah,
which I thought was a bit severe in picking you out for that, but there we are. So they stayed in that county where you have brought murder and mayhem over the past couple of years. So they stayed in Rutland, have they?
They stayed in that there, Rutland, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
We've not seen them since, I think, about October, something like that. But there we are.
Same here. It's terrible. I haven't seen my mum, my sisters, any of my relations since... the beginning of October, yes. But it's a long time. I mean, I say see. I mean, obviously we talk all the time, and occasionally there's Zoom and there's FaceTime. So it's not what it would have been a few decades back. At least the wonders of modern technology allows us to communicate much better than we might have done. Sort of, nipping down to the local. You wouldn't have been able to use it. Well, you wouldn't have been able to use a phone box, would you? They would have
Me? I could use a phone box, yeah.
But you can use one. I'm sure you're capable.
I used to have a BT phone card.
But you wouldn't be able to use one in lockdown, would you? I mean, they'd be.
I wouldn't want to, no.
No, exactly. Well, you probably wouldn't be allowed to. But anyway, so yes, in these strange times when family are denied us and hugs and kisses are denied us, I suppose we just look forward to the sun coming up. The days are already lengthening and the light is expanding to fill our lives. So I think we should actually I'm just going to concentrate on those positives and get on with it as best I can.
Yeah, well, you mentioned new technology. I've noticed you've got a very nice-looking new microphone there. We're trying to improve sound quality each week as much as we can remotely. Of course, when we were doing this together, as we had done for a couple of years, and you were here in my little home studio, we could make it sound brilliant. But of course, it is more difficult when you've got things being piped through the internet, even though you're only half a mile down the road. But we're doing
we're
what
getting
we can.
there bit by bit, and I have to say thank you, Adam Croft, because I've sort of got a very limited technical knowledge, but I tell you what, I'm absolutely stunned at the knowledge that I do have. I have to say, the things I've discovered these last couple of years working in this particular format, which have been very useful. But this mic is great. It's a lovely mic. It's called an Aston. And they're made locally to us, actually. They're made in Hitchin. And they are world-renowned. And I'll have to say, anyone who's thinking of having a home studio or doing as I do, which is sort of recording at the moment audiobooks, my own, it has to be said, I think they're absolutely terrific microphone for all sorts of things. I mean, top quality at a very, very reasonable price. You could get this, I think, for under £200, which is an absolute steal. So Aston mics are the ones, and they come with an array of various other sound cladding and various other things. So in this day and age where more and more people in my profession, certainly, and yours indeed, are sort of investing as best they can in a home studio to podcast or just basically communicate to a professional standard, I can strongly recommend Aston as a starting point to look for a home microphone. I mean, you can get them cheaper, and you can certainly get them a lot more expensive. But this
Are they going to send you another free one now, are they, for saying that?
They don't even know I exist.
You're after an upgrade?
I would like. Well, listen, maybe I'll send them an email. Listen to the podcast. I'm pushing your mics. They don't need to be pushed. They're of such excellent quality and renown that they don't need me piping up from mid-beds in praise of them.
I did like, before we started recording, we were talking about different technical things we could do, and this will make Moriarty chuckle, but you said to me, have you heard of Clean Feed? And yes, it's excellent. Unfortunately, the video aspect means that we need to use what we are using because our patrons, of course, have to see us as well. So,
I see. So Clean Feed is just purely audio. See, this is
Clean Feed's just audio.
I can hear the snores already from our listeners. We tuned in to listen to crime news, but in actual fact, we haven't spoken. Please indulge us, everyone, if you can, for a few seconds more, because we haven't spoken for the last 10 days, and we have to invest in this. Catch up on our dorky conversation. So Clean Feed. I mean, who thought I would ever mention an audio platform just straight off the head? But it's very good. But as you say, people need to see our faces.
I had thought of running both alongside each other.
But
I had thought of running both, one for video and Clean Feed for audio. But unfortunately, we seem to drop out sometimes anyway and have enough technical difficulties as it is. So
I've already dropped out this morning, Adam Croft, as it happens, because we turned on, and my children, of course, are doing their lessons online. So our Wi-Fi is stretched to the ultimate of its potential, which isn't particularly great out here in the mid-shires. I have to say. So I have had to connect an Ethernet connection. Now, if you'd asked me what that was, even a few months ago, I would have gone, but I've had to learn, and there we are. I've rushed out, I connected it, and now we're solid as can be.
There we go. Engineer Daws to the rescue.
Solid, maybe the operative word.
Shall we talk crime?
Shall we talk some crime? Yeah,
yes.
Why do you want to get started with some crime?
Well, what I want to do is get some housekeeping out the way. We've got the Book of the Month for our patrons who will be watching us on the video. We'll be able to see Bob's new Aston microphone. We'll be able to see that he's holding a book up for some unknown reason. That's not the Book of the Month. That's not the
Book of the Month. Oh, that's not
the Book of the Month. No, because it's not available at Kobo.
It's a very good book, but it's not the Book of the Month. It's a book of somebody's month, but it's not our Book of the Month.
We will get onto that. It can't be Book of the Month because it's not on Kobo, but what is, because they supply the Book of the Month, is the Hannah Duro's Mysteries boxed set. To celebrate the start of a new year, you get not one, not two, not even three, but 4 books for free this month as a Partners in Crime Patreon member. They are the Hannah Duro's Mysteries box set by K.T. Bowles. Logan Duro's is book 1, 2 strangers meet on a London train. One won't remember, the other will never forget. Book 2 is about Hannah. Not everyone gets a second chance at love, but being stalked by a killer could ruin everything. Hannah Duro's is book 3. How could she make the same mistake twice? She's devastated, but when she uncovers a work colleague's sinister secret, it may just get them both killed. And book 4 is the Duro's A Legacy. Family is everything to the Duroses. Protect the family whatever the cost, but this time the price might just be too high. Tragedy is waiting for them round the corner, and they will not want to pay its fee. So that is available to our patrons. If you are a Partners in Crime patron, log on to your Patreon dashboard, and either by the time you hear this or shortly thereafter, you'll get an email when it goes up anyway, will be a post in there telling you how you can claim those 4 books absolutely free. And Partners in Crime patrons do get free books every single month, courtesy of our sponsors Kobo. If you head over to patreon.com/Partners in Crime podcast, or check out the link in the show notes for that. You can get free books and a whole lot more as well. And in fact, some more housekeeping. We announced on our Christmas episode a competition we were running, Bob, for everybody, not just patrons, but absolutely everybody who listens to the podcast.
Yes.
And we had lots of entries, and we had lots of prizes to give away. I was giving away a couple of paperback copies of my new Nightingale House book, Snakes and Ladders. You were giving away a hardback of one of yours. We've got the Alison Morgan hardback there that you held up a couple of minutes too early. One of yours. I can't remember which one it was. Some old tap you found at the back of your cupboard.
It's a hardback, so that's all you need to know.
Yeah, something Bob found on his shelf.
Yeah, this will do.
that Alison Morgan one that you held up earlier, and of course the wonderful Kobo Nia e-reader, brand new e-reader courtesy of Kobo, who have very kindly chucked one our way to give away to a competition winner. So the winners of the competition, and we'll be. We're not announcing who's won what yet, because we're still waiting on a couple of emails to come back from winners. So we need to
we can't announce.
To get back to us. Well, I can announce the winners, but I can't say who's won what yet, because there's a couple of people who still haven't replied, and if they don't reply, they then don't get the prize, and you have to reallocate it to somebody else.
That's
anyway,
far too complicated for me. I just have to reverse engineer that fanfare. That's it.
Well, in short, winners are.
All right, okay.
Trevor Smith, Julie Benson, Karen McLean, Robin Murray, and Peter Chamberlain. So well done to those 5 winners, and we will announce hopefully on next week's show, once everyone's got back to us and we've been able to say to them, look, this is what you've got. They'll be able to tell them actually what they've won. Well, because we've had to reallocate a prize once already because somebody didn't get back to me.
Who's that? Is that me?
No. So one of the original winners didn't get back, didn't reply to the email. So
there we are.
The
so those winners will be celebrating now, all of them, and congratulations, all of you. By the way, that's absolutely terrific news.
Well, we'll let you know next week who's got what.
Any idea of what they've won? I think that's great. So another week living on the edge of your seat, waiting to hear whether you've actually won the 3-week holiday in Barbados or the hardback copy of a novel that no one can remember by Robert Daws. So there we are.
Something of Bob's.
This is the stuff that makes great broadcasting.
Right. So yeah, that's my tat out the way. Have you got something you wanted to recommend?
Well, I've got lots of things to recommend. Actually, I was looking at books. One of them actually I'll very quickly do, which is one of the prizes, which is the A.B. Morgan Over Her Dead Body, which is a terrific read. I'll tell you a little bit about it. Having come to terms with a painful divorce, career-driven clinical psychologist Gabby Dixon is starting a new chapter in her life. But just as Gabby's new life begins, it ends. Although still very much alive, someone has registered her death. What an outrage. And as a woman who likes to be in control, this situation is deeply unsettling. Gabby has to know who would want her dead and why. Enter Pedder and Connie Quirk, husband and wife private investigators. Gabby needs their help to uncover who is behind her death and find out what possible motive they could have to see her life grind to a halt. The truth, as they say, as they all find out, is far more sinister than a case of stolen identity. Well, this is Over Her Dead Body by A.B. Morgan. Actually, she lives not very far from us, and she lives in Bedfordshire. Spent several decades working on the front line of the NHS mental health services, and latterly as a specialist nurse and clinical manager. She has become an established crime writer and able to stem the flow of ideas. From a writing shack at the top of her garden, she creates stories, Roald Dahl. She creates stories with memorable characters, always with a sprinkling of humour, often drawing on years of experience in the world of psychiatry, where the truth can be much stranger than fiction. So that's Alison Morgan, known as A.B. Morgan, Over Her Dead Body, and that's going to be one of the prizes next week for someone who doesn't know they've actually won it yet, but actually, try and get a copy if that sounds like your cup of tea.
But if I just read your name out, don't, because you might have won one anyway.
Oh, yes, exactly. Oh, you can always have two. It's a terrific book. The Quirk Files, Book 1 it is, and that sounds like a fantastic series to start. Okay, over to you.
You say she writes from the top of her garden?
She's top of her garden. I said like Roald Dahl. Well, Roald Dahl's come in for a
There's Hemingway
recently, hasn't he? For his anti-Semitic leanings, which have caused much furore, justifiably. But there we go. It's he's.
Doesn't everyone write? I was going to say, doesn't everyone write from the top of their garden? Everyone's house is at the top of their garden, isn't it? Technically.
Yes, I suppose so. Well, let's say, where's the top of the garden? I know where my top of the garden is. There's the top of the garden, there's the bottom of the garden. That's where the gnomes live, obviously. But if I was writing, I would be writing from the end of my garden. And I think Roa, she, God, got to get my authors right. I think
Don't call her Roald Dahl.
Morgan. I think Alison's is at the end of her garden. I'm sure I'll get an email from her publisher, Hobeck, very shortly saying, "How dare you suggest that her writing base is at the bottom of her garden?" But mine would be. I've got a shed at the end of the garden. Unfortunately, there's no room for a writer to sit in. It's full of blooming boxes and loads of rubbish. But there we are. Yeah, well, writers' dens are all the rage, aren't they? And I understand it. It's great to be writing from home. It's great to be working from home. But occasionally, it's quite nice to just sit out. And I do it through the summer. I mean, I record this fact, sit in the sun at the end of the garden and do everything I can possibly think of to avoid actually having to do any kind of work at all.
Yeah.
But there we are, end of gardens.
I can't wait to get laptop out in the garden again and be able to sit and write out there. Somehow better, isn't it?
Yes, I've seen your laptop out in your garden, and you make it look marvellous, I have to say.
And we can record Partners in Crime out there again. We can get the Partners in Crime tent out.
We can get the Partners in Crime knees out.
Partners in Crime knees.
Those Bermuda shorts flapping in the slight breeze, the trickle of your stream. Adam has a stream at the bottom of his garden, and a very pretty one too, so you can hear that occasionally.
It's not mine.
No, it's not yours. No, it's not your own
it's not my stream. That's why the garden ends where it ends, because of
You've
that.
got a nice stream just behind your barbecue. It's all very nice and terrifically suburban and beautifully done. Actually, I've often thought about that fence. I mean, you actually block the stream from view. If you had some transparent sort of one-way thing, so you could actually sit and watch the stream burbling, gurgling by.
Well, it was there anyway. The fence. I didn't put it up. It was there when we bought the house. But I suppose so. But also, the stream is quite a lot lower than the garden as well. There's a very sudden drop, and with a 3-year-old, not necessarily ideal.
No.
I see what you mean. But the fence is quite low. It's only sort of shoulder height. You can easily.
Not ideal for you after a few beers, I would have thought.
Well, exactly.
So yes,
exactly
okay.
that.
Well, forget that idea, and let's get back to crime.
Yeah.
Have you got any fascinating facts and figures appertaining to?
I've got facts and figures, but I've got a recommendation for the telly. Something that's actually over by the time this goes out, but which you can still get on catch-up services, is Luke Evans' new ITV true crime drama, The Pembrokeshire Murders, which depicts the pursuit of a cold-blooded bullseye killer. Let me take you back to 1985, Bob.
Let me just settle down for a second.
When I wasn't even born, and you were about 40-something. And then
I should put in my first order for a mobility scooter. You're quite right. Yes.
And then the summer of 1989, when I was 3. And there were 2 cold-blooded double murders by shotgun committed in Pembrokeshire at those times when Bob was just collecting his first pension. In 1985, the victims were local residents, brother and sister Richard and Helen Thomas, and in 1989, the victims were tourists, husband and wife Peter and Gwenda Dixon. Both crimes were thoroughly investigated, but no one was charged. In 2006, DCI Steve Wilkins returned to Wales after a stint at Scotland Yard and began a new job as deputy head of Dydd Powys CID. Given the nationwide impact DNA forensic science was having on solving rates and serious crime, Steve decided to put a team together and reinvestigate the murders. He knew lots of the original exhibits still existed and were in storage, so he opened them up and DNA tested them in order to find the killers of those murders. He believed one man was responsible for all 4 murders, a local man by the name of John William Cooper, who was doing time for a series of burglaries and robberies. But his concern was that Cooper would soon be up for parole. So it's a race against time, essentially, to get all the forensic evidence from these previous cases in the 1980s and charge their suspect before he's released to potentially kill again. This has been dramatised in the Pembrokeshire Murders, which started on ITV this week. Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, although it's available on the ITV player if you're in the UK to get hold of that and watch it. It stars Keith Allen as John William Cooper. So well worth getting that. I've got it on my Skybox. I've not watched it yet, but I am going to do so. It looks excellent. I actually downloaded that earlier to watch.
Well, I'm going to watch all three of those. They look extraordinarily good. The reviews have been good, and a terrific cast. Luke Evans and my old mucker Keith Allen, who is, I think, one of the terrific actors.
Hang on. Where are we? Here it is.
Name drop alert. Name drop alert. Name drop alert. Name drop alert.
Haven't wheeled that one out in a while.
Why do you never do that when I talk about my aunties or second cousins, do you? It's always to do with a well-known actor. I just don't understand.
If you talked about that second cousin, I would do.
He's not. I do have Welsh blood in me, but or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, that's going to be. ITV have established a very good. There was an article I was reading just the other day about someone saying that ITV seems to be obsessed with crime drama. Well, and it came to the conclusion that they're obsessed with it because there's a huge market for it. The journalist was bemoaning the fact that the ITV used to be the home of warm and cuddly and interesting series like Fat Friends and Cold Feet and I don't know, slightly warm cucumbers or whatever. I don't know, but that sort of drama, which they don't seem to do anymore. It seems to be wall to wall crime. Well, I mean, we're not going to be complaining about that on Partners in Crime at all because they do it so well. We've talked about many of their shows, and they seem to be particularly good at these recreations of true crime incidents, which some people aren't happy with. Some people just think that true crime is grueling enough without actually having to recreate it for the television. But they have had a great success with this, and they're continuing to do it. And I suppose in the age of COVID, people are less likely to want to settle down and be shown a life of that doesn't exist anymore. You know, friends getting together and having a good time and all that sort of vibe. But they're quite happy to see, I guess, dramas where people are actually probably suffering more than they do, and no drama does that necessarily better than a murder or a psychological thriller. So I can understand the increase in broadcasters wanting to make programs about crime, and it goes hand in hand, of course, with the great boom in the genre of crime writing and people reading more and more crime books, which again is absolutely terrific. So
we're going to have more on that on Arsenic and Old Lace, actually, to do with true crime and what fiction writers make of true crime. We've got an exclusive.
I'll save the
on
next
that.
half-hour monologue for that.
Yeah.
So
if you're a Partners in Crime patron, then do log in and check that. That's our exclusive Patreon-only episode. Essentially, we record 2 Partners in Crime a week. We do Arsenic and Old Lace straight after, which is kind of our wash-up after-show show. But that's
washed
video.
Up after show.
Washed up after show in a full HD video for our patrons. But also, you mentioned cold feet and slightly warm cucumbers. There,
yes, I don't know where that came from, but
it sounds like the title of a cozy mystery novel, which brings me on in a very loose segue to an article that was in the Times recently. Dominic Maxwell. Not about cucumbers, no. Didn't print that one out. Dominic Maxwell wrote in the Times an article that starts, amongst other things, with a sentence, "Life is a mess, get used to it," which I think kind of sums up the Times editorial policy at the moment. He talks about Richard Osman, the cosy crime caper of the Thursday Murder Club, which was the biggest selling book of last year, of course. But he says, what, though, are the main types of crime book these days? What are some of the tribes that make up the biggest community in fiction? And he has broken it down into 8 types of crime reader.
Ooh.
There's number 1, the Agatha Christie Addict. Polite murders committed and investigated by quirky gentlefolk. Well, kind of. Recent BBC adaptations have shown within her clockwork plotting and well-born characters are depictions of all sorts of ungovernable yearnings and frailties. Number 2 is the Cosy Crime Cognoscenti. Careful how you say
Well
that.
done for pronouncing that. Very good. Cognoscenti.
Christie's modern successors, civil, soft-bitten with an emphasis on mystery and ingenious plotting more than suffering. Usually in market or seaside towns, Kempston, Hardwick, which should be sufficiently enticing that you would happily move there, never mind the slight risk of being battered to death with a gravy jug or by a cheesed-off ex or disinherited love child.
Always a problem in a seaside town.
Yes. Number 3 is the
Bash me
Nordic...
quick hats. Sorry. Carry on.
Well, that can be taken 2 ways. Number 3 is the Nordic Noir nerd. Of course, Stig Larsson is largely responsible for bringing that over here, as well as Henning Mankell.
Yes, Nesba.
Jörn Nesba with Harry Hurler, who pushes, sort of inspired by Macbeth, apparently, he said, and pushes the envelope of sympathy. Nordic Noir nerd is described here as grim but beautiful, which is a little bit like our podcast.
It was a bit like me. I mean, because I am not. No, I jest quite obviously, but yes, I think I'm verging on all of the 3 you've just mentioned.
Yeah, you're pushing the envelope of sympathy there, Bob. Ah, there we go. To quote Jane Harper.
I'm all for pushing envelopes. Carry on.
The police procedural pundit is number 4. The police procedural grounds its detecting in the day-to-day detail of how that force works, ensuring internal politics of limited resources, professional rivalries, both of which I've used to great effect, and nuggets of well-researched detail, which I haven't, are always in the mix. Number 5 is the funny crime fan. In its way, perhaps the hardest subgenre to get right. It takes a strong voice to bind laughs with crime and violence without dissipating the tension that a mystery needs. Dexter, for example, is a good example of that, Jeff Lindsay. And the Finnish writer Antti Tuomainen. There we go. Pick the bones out of that one.
Maybe MC Beaton with Agatha Rayson as well.
Maybe so, yeah. But that's kind of cosy, I think, isn't it?
That's cosy, but a lot of humour as well. I don't know. But it is. I mean, what you're talking about is black comedy, aren't you, really?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, for example, here, the Finnish writer, and I've got to say it for a third time, second time technically, Antti Tuomainen keeps a straighter face while also, in his most recent book, Little Siberia, serving up an infertile pasta, not the one you eat, but a pasta, with a pregnant wife, a sloshed rally driver whose car gets hit by meteorites, and Russian gangsters joining many others in hunting for the meteorite, which is potentially valuable. Interesting. Number 6 is the Psycho Chiller Nut. It's books with a touch of the psycho about them, a dark thriller with short chapters in italics showing things from the killer's point of view. Again, a device I've used many times. Jeffrey Deaver and Mo Hader are in the ranks here, as well as newcomers like M.W. Craven, wonderful writer, and Robert Brinzer, also a wonderful writer.
Val McDermid?
Possibly. She gets mentioned a bit later on, I think. Or does she? No,
she?
Maybe not.
Well, I mean, she doesn't. She's got huge versatility, but she has done that.
I think she's fine. I think she's happy.
She covers enough of those genres.
Yes. And hello, Val, by the way. I know you do listen sometimes, so I'm going to say hello. Reacher Preacher is number 7. Fictional hardmen like Jack Reacher, the near invincible, near invulnerable military policeman turned drifter in Lee Child's series of books, and all of the offshoots and not very original copies of that have come since. And number 8, The Private Eye Idol, referencing the old world pleasures of Raymond Chandler, Mickey Spillane, Robert B. Parker or Sue Grafton while keeping a fingerhold on the real world. Authors like Steph Char, whose Korean-American PI by accident Juniper Song pounds the mean streets of Los Angeles, or Ama Anwar's Zack and Jag series of books set in West London's Asian community. So there you go. They're the 8 types of crime book that you can get your grubby little mitts on.
Who wrote that article? It's brilliant.
Dominic Maxwell in the Times.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
So there we go.
Well, that's excellent. I mean, that just about covers it all. I mean, within those subgenres, I suppose, are further subgenres of the subgenres, really, I suppose, and crossovers and stuff like that. But, I mean, he's really just hit the main the main areas of I suppose most. But interesting, you should say that the comic one is the hardest to do. I mean, Mark Billingham in his early days did that as well to great success before actually getting really, becoming one of the top nitty gritties.
Well, he's a stand-up, so
well,
makes
of
sense.
course, his night job in those days was being a stand-up comedian. So, but it is a tough one. But when it works, it's terrific. Black comedy is very often something that tends to work better on film or television, in particularly film. I think that sort of black comedy sort of thing, rather than in books. Although I'm probably terribly wrong and will be inundated with people telling me why I'm wrong. So that's great. Well, listen, I'm going to just mention a book, if I may. Well, actually, which is by Jane Harper, the wonderful Jane Harper. It's her new book, The Survivors. With The Survivors, Val McDermott says, Jane Harper proves she's unquestionably the real deal. And it sounds like a fascinating premise. Without doubt, who says this? Chris Whittaker, one of the
Not Chris
finest
Whitty.
crime writers. Not Chris Whitty. Yes. Can you imagine? Without doubt, one of the finest crime writers at work today.
He's a bit busy.
This is what it's about. Kieran Elliott's life changed forever on a single day when a reckless mistake led to devastating consequences. The guilt that haunts him still resurfaces during a visit with his young family to the small coastal town he once called home. Kieran's parents are struggling in a community which is bound, for better or worse, to the sea, that is both a lifeline and a threat. Between them all is his absent brother Finn. When a body is discovered on the beach, long-held secrets threaten to emerge in the murder investigation that follows. A sunken wreck, a missing girl, and questions that have never washed away. So great praise from all round. Louise Candlish says, you won't put this novel down until you've uncovered every last skeleton in the closet. I loved it. So that is Jane Harper's The Survivors. I think it's got here Sunday Times and Times Best Book of 2021. So it's been recommended by others also.
So best book of the last 12 days.
The best book of the last 12 days. But that sounds fascinating.
I haven't even read the book in the last 12 days. So
Have you? You haven't? You've
No.
been too busy writing them.
It's that kind of start of the year thing where you get back down. I made the mistake of taking a couple of weeks off at Christmas, basically. So yeah, it's that catching back up now.
Well, I have been reading, actually, and I've been catching up on an author. Well, not catching up. I've started to read an author, which many people have said you've got to read, Robert Goddard. And I now understand why. And so I went right back to one of his first books, which was written in 1986. And
When I was born, I'll just remind you.
Were you born in 1986?
Yeah, just sort of throw that one in there again.
God, were you? Well done, you.
You'd only just got out of the army then, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't. I don't. Yeah, I've just been doing my national service. Anyway, discover one of the most gripping thrillers of all time, nominated for the Booker Prize. Wonderful read, said Publishers Weekly. New York Times compares him to John le Carré and Daphne du Maurier. So here it is, just a quick description of Past Caring, which I have to say I'm halfway through and absolutely love. At a luxurious villa on the sun-soaked island of Madeira. See, it had me at that. I said often, I like my thrillers set in the sun. That's why I write them there. Unemployed historian Martin Radford is given a second chance. Martin is shown the leather-bound journal of another ruined man, former British Cabinet Minister Edwin Strafford. Martin is offered a job to return to England and investigate the rise and fall of Strafford, an ambitious young politician whose downfall in 1910 is as mysterious as the strange deaths that still haunt his family. Martin is intrigued. Strafford resigned at the height of his career, disappearing from the public eye. The woman he loved, for whom he was willing to sacrifice everything, suddenly and coldly rejected him. All the reasons for his fall from grace are shrouded in darkness. Martin's investigations trigger a violent series of events, throwing him straight into the path of those who believe they had escaped punishment for crimes long past but never paid for. And Martin himself may find that he must risk his life to discover the truth. It's a great read, and I'm so glad that I've started reading Goddard, because certainly this book is, if any indication of his others, of which there have been many best-selling examples, is terrific. So that's if you're thinking of starting Robert Goddard, we can start anywhere you like. But I've started with Past Caring, which is a terrific read, and I didn't realise, I only just found out that it was nominated for a Booker Prize. So therefore, if you need any more recommendation, I don't know where you can possibly go for it. There we are. That's another recommendation from me. Over to you,
Well,
pal.
talking of Past Caring, I think we're about done for this week. We've
really?
we've had a good run at it. We've got over 35 minutes, which is making me antsy. So I've also got a lot to.
I wonder where you're looking like that.
No, I was just ordering some beer online. No, we've got a lot to cover in Arsenic and Old Lace. Actually, we've got through 2 news stories today on the main show, and I've still got 4 left to cover on Arsenic and Old Lace. So if you're a patron, then log into your dashboard and watch that, our exclusive video extra episode, which is probably going to end up being longer than the main one this week. But there we are. Are you done? I'm done. You happy?
Yes. Are we off air? Is that it?
We're not off air yet. No, I haven't played the
We're
theme
not off
tune,
air.
have I?
Oh, right. I was just putting my feet up. Always wait for the theme tune. It's, line 1, page 1 of the Partners in Crime guidebook, which you spent many years writing, and I've spent many years trying to avoid reading.
Always play to the whistle, Bob. Play to the whistle.
Yes,
Yeah.
well,
You ready?
I think we've left our performances on the field, don't you?
I think so.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Daws and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Beisch. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.